everyone who is listening to us today. It's Tribecast, episode 52. Our guest for this week is Ilkka, who says that he is a board amateur, which makes me curious because usually people who participate in many boards call themselves boards professional. So let's figure out whether this gentleman is just being shy or what's behind the amateur word. And also let's talk a bit more about Tribex, where Ilkka was one of the speakers. First things first, hello Ilkka, thank you for having time for this interview, and could you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
So hi Marina, and thanks for having me here at the Tribex podcast. So I'm Ilkka Kaikuvuo, one of the founders of Framery and Surveypal, quite many other companies, a research nerd. But yeah, the board amateur stuff, I'm at the moment part of, I'd say, 8 board of directors. But in my mind, if you say that you're a board professional, you should pay for it. That's one thing. And then the other thing is that if you're a professional in something, in my mind, it means that you don't enjoy it as much if you're an amateur. So that's the reason for me being an amateur, and I think I'll remain an amateur for forever. Board business too. And then something that maybe not all know about me. Well, I'm a really enthusiastic marathon runner. So the weather here in Finland, or at least here in Tampere, is not that nice at the moment. So it's been snowing the whole day. It's the 15th of April and it's snowing, so that's pretty curious. But I'm a pretty keen runner, and I've been running 4 years already. So I've run 27 marathons, and I plan to do that after the corona crisis is over. But hey, nice to be here.
All right. I would say that in my understanding, being a co-founder in a startup, it's pretty much a marathon per se, because when you start, it's a long journey and you have to work hard throughout it to achieve the results.
Yeah, I totally agree. So it's a marathon, not a sprint. So if you take it as a sprint, I think you will fall into the trap that we have to do an exit, which is perhaps the biggest trap for a startup founder there is. And if you think about it as a marathon, then you will think about the stuff that happens a bit later. So you will have your goal on the things that happen after a while, not on the things that happen like today or tomorrow. So definitely a marathon, not a sprint.
I would like to ask you about probably your most famous project, Framery. I was listening to Peter Westerbacka's speech, and he compared Framery to telephone booths, just for the, form and shape. Another thing that I was talking to someone around a month ago, and the person used Framery booth, and then I said, well, Framery is like a local company, and the person was like, wow, that's the name of the company. I always thought that it's more like a type of a booth, like a shape or something like material. So that's quite a popular project. Can you tell a bit of how it started and how did you get involved there?
Well, yeah, all started back at 2010 when all the three of us founders were working for this local or IT company based here in Tampere. So we did IT stuff for a logistics company, so meaning warehouse management systems and so forth. But anyway, so we actually moved to a different location, and the location was a brand new office building in downtown Tampere. But the main thing was that there was a huge open office there, which wasn't that common even back at those days at 2010. So we had to adapt to the open office, and what it meant for me was that I was managing 2 teams then, so one integration team and then the sales and marketing team, in which Vesco and Samu worked. And what happened was basically I was in quite many online conferences as now too during the day, and during those times I didn't have my own office or an office room. So I disturbed everyone when I was having the online conferences to different countries in the Baltic Sea region. So what it meant was that I was speaking on my phone or on online conferences for 6 to 7 hours per day. And the guys got annoyed at some point, and we had done some work for the acoustic environment already before that, but at some point they got really annoyed, and they came to say to me that, okay, now you should go F yourself somewhere else, because you're like really annoying when you're talking on the phone all the time. And I had this idea, which I had already had for a while before that perhaps, you could have a phone pod or a phone booth inside. So what I said to guys that, hey, okay, stop complaining and get me a phone pod, which they sort of tried to do. So they went and Googled for a phone booth or a phone pod then, and they didn't find anything. That was the year 2010. And when they didn't find anything, they just came back and said that, okay, that's a good idea you have there, but there's no phone pods available on the internet at the moment, but we are going to build one. That was sort of the beginning of Framery. And so the Framery is a phone pod, nowadays also a meeting pod and a small meeting room, but all began back at 2010 in downtown Tampere when there was too much noise. And the noise was coming from me, because I was having all the telephone conversations and online conferences with my partners on the Baltic Sea region, and well, the rest is sort of history.
That's just so impressive. If you need something, just go and build it. And also you guys did a great job, because this year at Slush, the media room where we were with Tribecast was equipped with Framery, and that was really comfy for guys like us who do sound only. Thank you for being. So, as a person who did lots of online calls and meetings and work online, remote work, you're the best person to ask how to tackle the work from home situation. What are your secret trick?
Well, that's a great question, and I hope I know the answer, or I actually hope that I would know the answer, but my tricks, or not exactly secrets, you should get your own space and do the normal stuff too. So when you get up on the morning, so put on the better clothes, the same clothes you would wear if you went to the actual office. So put those on and have your pauses too. So if it's time for coffee, go and grab the coffee and do something else for a while. The same stuff you would do back at the office. Because during this COVID situation and during the first week of the lockdown here in Finland, I didn't do those things. So basically I had only back-to-back meetings with all the co-founders of my portfolio companies, and I did that for a week. And after the first week I was totally exhausted, because I didn't have the pauses, I didn't do the proper stuff I should do, and I didn't do exactly the stuff I would do back at the office. So have the pauses, put on the better clothes, have some conversations with your family too, and have a social life too, because that's what it takes. So if you just try to tackle all the online meetings back to back, and so that the meeting stops now, and after 2 minutes you have the next one, then you will be totally exhausted and be it after the COVID crisis is over. So just do the same stuff you would do back at the office.
Thank you for the advice. That sounds doable. Probably I should try that, at least start wearing something more proper than my home clothes. Again, about the remote work. This year, for the first time ever, Startup World Cup Finland and the pre-event to it, Tribex, went totally online. So what are your feelings about this event? Was it easy to do the recording? Was it complicated? Do you feel that you enjoyed the event? Or do you feel that you just missed all the fun?
Well, I think it was actually pretty nice to do the recording back at the Tribex studio. So there were all the lights and everything, and it was nicely and properly set up. So that was a pretty nice experience for me. But anyway, I think it was a really challenging situation for all the organizers, and I think you did a great job doing the online part there. The pitch competition was nice to see from the online recordings too, and I think that was nicely done too. There's always an element missing if you do something that's been happening like in a live environment as it was last year. There were like 200 or 300 or 400 people attending the Startup World Cup. I can't remember the exact number of people, but anyway, there's a certain atmosphere and a feeling to all the event, and you can't, in my opinion, just get the same feeling when you're doing it online. But I think Tribex did a wonderful job with the event this year. The pitching was good. The pitching competition, I mean, that was really great. And for me, the experience when recording the online session, that was really great too. So good job. Not the same thing, but really good.
Thank you very much, Ilkka, for this interview and for the stories and tricks you shared with our listeners. Let me remind our listeners at that moment that now we are doing Tribecast in a fully remote format. So stay at home and take care of yourself, as we do and our guests do. Thank you very much, Ilkka, for the interview. That was my pleasure. And yeah, let's see each other again, probably before the next Startup World Cup when the crisis ends.
Thanks a lot, and the same to you and for all the listeners. So stay safe and do your stuff. Go and do the startup things you want to do and dream big. Nevertheless.
This was it for this week. Thank you for listening, and let me remind you that Tribecast is an independent media working in close cooperation with Tribe Tampere startup community. Next week we'll continue giving the voice of the local startup ecosystem, and for now I wish you all a nice weekend and a happy Easter. Join us on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, Google Podcast, or whatever your favorite podcast platform is, and stay warm and tuned.